This is 1,135 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And I'm going to keep saying it because it is unbelievable. And it is just unbelievable that a soldier could just vanish out of his barracks room on a military installation, and a military installation such as Fort Bliss, the largest by landmass by far, in, of any American military installation. And so it requires a lot of uh, military policing and surveillance cameras, and a lot of competent people at the gates. And this is why you pay a person good money to be the chief of security of Fort Bliss, and they blew it. They absolutely blew our money. They blew our money, and we don't have security on Fort Bliss. There is a breach in security, and I'm not the only one saying this. Okay, lots and lots of people have come and told me there is a breach of security on Fort Bliss, and there is even more troubling situations. So yeah, thank you so much, Anicia, for coming on so quick. I'm coming on a little bit earlier tonight. Yay! Um, so absolutely, yes, exactly, absolutely. There is a breach of security on Fort Bliss, and you know what is very, very troubling is that the media is not covering this. They are not covering this the way they should, because they're not holding the leadership's feet to the fire. And we are hearing through our intel on Fort Bliss. Remember, I told you we have an alliance, an intel alliance there on Fort Bliss, that the suicides or, driven to suicide or suicided are just, it's bad, y'all. It's bad. And I will tell you this much, it's not being reported, and the tampering with evidence is become acceptable. The tampering of evidence has become acceptable. And also, the sexual harassment and assault has become acceptable. Okay? Even after Vanessa Guillen. Okay? Even after Vanessa Guillen. And then we have some issues around our son's case with sexual harassment. But it's become something that it is acceptable to cover up. So it seems that our young soldiers don't understand um, justice or due process, and the leadership is taking advantage of that, is not training them properly. And you have a leadership that is making it acceptable to tamper with evidence and to tamper with witnesses, to tamper with investigations. And that's why you see so much botched. So, of course, they've tampered with our son's case, they've tampered with evidence, they've tampered with witnesses, key witnesses, and so this is becoming a norm, and it is very, very concerning, because then we have botched justice system, and it's very clear if they're going to tamper with evidence, you can't get to the truth, um, unless you're fighting for 3 years day in and day out, right? unless you're fighting every day, 3 years in and out, and it's not over with yet. Um, but we have good news. We do have the start of the institutional support because we have so much evidence that they can't ignore the evidence. And so they have to, and they're doing it, kicking, okay, kicking and screaming. The institutional support, I always thought that our leadership had some benevolence to them, that they really did have some esprit de corps, that they did care about our country, that they did have a duty under God, that they valued, that they wanted, that they feared if they didn't um, honor their oath. I really believe that. And this is how we operate in the Halliday family. We we fear God in a healthy way. And we don't serve like all money and I want to talk about that a little bit today because the debt crisis that we're in. It's not just that we're in a debt crisis. And I've mentioned this before, but it's the meanness of debt that is the real problem. It's so mean. And that's why I believe God and His wisdom always had a Sabbath rest, a forgiveness of debt, the seventh year, the forgiveness of debt, the Jubilee, the double forgiveness of debt being the 50th year. So the 49th year, forgiveness of debt, the 50th year, forgiveness of debt. So a double year, the Jubilee. I believe that he did that because he had to restrain debt, because he wanted to restrain meanness, cruelty, um, insanity, sociopathy. I mean, debt, when you owe people, um, it can make you a very, very mean person. Very mean. And there's a lot of proof of it in our son's case. So I just wanted to mention that. Another thing that I wanted to mention is the showing now of institutional support, which is really, really, really positive, because institutional support plus evidence equals accountability. And I'm going to tell you that we have the evidence. We have so much evidence. And part of the evidence lately is concerning when it comes to Edwin Sishane. Um, we need to get to the bottom of this soldier, and we're really reaching out to him, Edwin, on this live stream. Edwin, we are reaching out to you. We would like for you to contact us at 941-677-0060, because your name keeps popping up. Edwin Sishane. And I think, and I hope I'm saying it right, but I think that he knows a lot about a lot. And, maybe he doesn't. I think he does, because his name keeps popping up. So if he can reach out to us, that would be really, because we're inquiring, because it really does surround and is connected to the forced disappearance and the presumed premeditated murder of Richard. So we'd really like him to, defend himself, or not defend himself, but at least tell us, yay, nay, his side of the story, whatever. So that's really, really big news. The other news is that Leilani Hart, we still are getting people that she has hurt in her past that are standing up against her meanness, absolutely sociopathy, her, what is that, crimes of interpretude, uh, crimes of turpitude, right? I looked it up, and it is, deception crimes. When you are lying about people, when you commit child abuse, and I'm not saying she committed child abuse, um, she she claimed to be committing child abuse. What do I mean by that? Because in her affidavit, she knows, she's saying that her husband, her family is a danger, or that her husband is a danger to society, to children, that no children should be left with him. Yet when she's with her friend, her active duty friend, she leaves her active duty friend's children with her husband that she knows is up to no good. And the 7-year old, she claims, gets sexually assaulted in her master bedroom by multiple members of her house. And so this is a crime of turpitude. um, I hope I'm saying that right. It's a crime of deception. Did she not tell her friend that it was a bad situation with her husband, and um, we need to turn him in, because child pornography is not acceptable. Incest is not acceptable. Child um, sexual abuse is not acceptable. And threats made with weapons is unacceptable. And so, did she say that? No. So she committed crimes also by not reporting like she should have. Absolutely. Um, so it leads me to analyze Lilani Hart even more, to analyze her psychology, to analyze her patterns. And what her patterns is to make complaints about people that um, she's run into, that she has no patience for. She harasses them. She sets them up. She's just mean and cruel. Absolutely spends her days trying to figure out how to create chaos and to hurt people. Okay? Absolutely. And so, by analyzing her, it leads me to a very important question. Because we have a key witness that absolutely says that she was engaged in leaking Richard's file, that Tavita Nusa was leaking Richard's file, that she was having role in the haze with a CID special agent, Tavita Nusa, which is very concerning, because he's married to another individual, and she is a convicted criminal, uh, a convicted criminal sleeping with a CID special agent. She has a whole history of harassment. She has a history of domestic abuse, a history of domestic disturbance, and she's sleeping with a CID special agent. And then he loses his badge. I mean, she even in her love life, she has hate. Even in her um, I don't even want to call it love life, in her lust, even in her lust, she has hate, and ruined him, right? I mean, he ruined himself. Don't get me wrong, but my focus is on Lilani Hart. Um, so I mean, the blame lies with him just as much as with her. But she is a convicted criminal, and he's supposed to be like her cousin or something. And she is sleeping around with him for, I don't know, pay for play. I don't know. I don't know. Because she got that criminal affidavit with a CID number and an FBI number. And we want to know, how did it get that CID number? Why? What triggered that the CID would have to put a number on that affidavit? It seems to be, uh, that's an interesting question. Um, so, my goodness, let's talk about um, Leilani Hart some more, because here she is claiming, we have a claim that she was bragging that she was running the CID. It's easy to believe. It's easy to believe. So when you know about Edwin Sissonet and his background, it's easy to believe. When you know that Tavita Nusa has this background, this Samoan background, um, uh, and the reason why I said Samoan background is because Leilani Hart has a Samoan background, okay? So that makes them very connected. And that's why I'm saying that. But also because they're LDS, which makes them connected. So they're even double connected. And then they're, I was told by James Hart that they're family. So that means they're triple connected. And then they were having an affair. So that's quadruple connected. And yet she's a convicted criminal and he's a special agent in the CID. That's a there's so many conflicts of interest in that whole situation. And my point that I want to make is, I'm questioning if Leilani Hart made allegations against Richard, that to the CID, that the CID then used to give to the MPs and whatnot. Was she a witness against Richard in a hit job? Because we know from her other victims in Hawaii that she puts out lies, hit jobs on people that she wants to destroy and make their life hell. And so, if that's the case, and we know that she was up to no good in Richard's case, did she also? It's just her normal operation, right? Is to make complaints, false complaints against people that she wants to undo. And so I'm wondering if there are false claims, if there are claims out there by Leilani Hart against Richard. Um, so that's something that we are pursuing. Um, and the FBI would know, right? The CID would know, the command would know, his unit would know. The other, which brings me to Dallas Hart. Dallas Hart, we maintain, was Richard's platoon leader. And he says no. But we have the picture with Sissonet, and we know about Sissonet, and the name in the uh, little label that is on the officer side of the Humvee says First Lieutenant Ha, right? Ha, Hart. And the thing about it is Dallas rank, his rank was perfect, right? Because you have to be a first lieutenant to be a platoon leader. And then the other thing is where is a platoon leader? If Dallas wasn't the platoon leader, where is the platoon leader? Right? So we absolutely maintain, because of our eyewitness testimonies that we have, the picture testimonies that we have, um, you know, he was the platoon leader for Delta Battery 14388. We maintain that. That's our opinion. And, if he was not, then he could produce the orders. He could produce orders for his others. And we have some kind of fraudulent travel voucher um, that we believe is fraudulent. And that is not hard to believe because with his father, James Hart, being accused by Leilani Hart for being committing fraud and forgery over at the VA. Um, so we have this inside uh, alliance, and we're getting information that James Hart is up to no good at the VA. Okay, he's up to no good at the VA, and that these people do not hesitate to forge, to steal identities, and to forge names, information. They are all about forgery, so we are being told, and uh, and they're about fraud. And these are crimes of turpitude, right? Crimes of turpitude, which means deception, absolute deception, and they're all about it. So, I would, if I was Dallas Hart, if I was James Hart, I would try to defend myself a little bit in this because these are mega crimes. And look at Tavita Nusa. Tavita Nusa, what did he get for sleeping around with Leilani Hart? He lost his badge. He lost his badge and he was removed. He was removed from the military. He lost his entire career. Okay? And he's married to another individual. So that other individual was hurt by this, right? All those connected with him were hurt by this. So, and I'm putting the blame on him, right? But it takes two to tango. So absolutely, Leilani Hart, even in her lust, even in her, like her family ties, she's up to no good. She just wants chaos. And the reason why I'm saying this over and over is because there is more to it in Richard's case. She definitely will leave a wake. And because of that, if you have information leading to Richard's case and finding him that has to do with all of the information coming from her, you know, uh, then please call 941 677 0060. And, because families, people are being destroyed, absolutely being destroyed. Um, so yeah, think about it. He's having an affair. He's with someone that is a convicted criminal. He lost his badge. He lost his position. Um, he's also participating in leaked files. There's leaks, 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 leaks to Lalani, leaks to this Eric Hatch, leaks to Tavita Nusa, leaks to the FBI with Tavita Nusa, not Tavita Nusa, but Nadal Baim. There's just leaks everywhere, leaks coming from Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado, the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, and leaks from Nadal Baim to the cashier. That's another leak. And so now we have leaks are okay. That's what's being the norm. Um, Tampering with evidence, tampering with witnesses, that's the norm. That's okay. Is it? No, these people have to be held accountable for this mess. This mess. So we have a number of leaks from Tavita, from Nadal, from Eric Hatch, from Hema Sochil, from Curran Adeline. There's leaks, 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 leaks. And so, this is a botched investigation, right? It's a botched investigation. You can't uh, believe what they're saying. So Also, the FBI and the CID numbers were also leaked, and we even received those numbers which were leaked. So I think that is really, really important too. So the weaponization of the military is what's happening here. When you can tamper with evidence, when you can leak, and when you can have these sexual affairs and nothing happens, right? These, there's no moral standard. And that is a really big, big problem. So I'm trying to look at my notes if you have any questions. The institutional support coming from Ted Cruz is very important. The institutional support coming from the Department of Justice is important. The institutional support coming from Amy Snoddy's office, which is the Office of Records, right? It's all of the financial records. That is very important. Because follow the money. So we'll absolutely let you know as soon as we know what the money tells us. Um, the institutional support from Veronica Escobar is coming in. These are all people that, yeah, we've had some contentious days with, months with, years with. Even Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, totally contentious. And I think by the time it's all over with, there's going to be institutional support. Even with General McConville, who is retired now, I believe he's retired and not even replaced. I think that there's going to be institutional support with the replacement, absolutely, because it's just that important and that big. So, and we're getting it. We have so much evidence that they're looking into it now. So the AG, the DEA, the internal affairs, um, congressmen, senators, um, the governor's office, that is all very, very important because once we have institutional support and with our evidence, then we will have accountability. So that's where we're going. Um, I wanted to mention that uh, I put up uh, that Ted Cruz, they're messing with like fans. The government wants to regulate fans, out regulate fans, ceiling fans or whatever, and then they're messing with the beer or whatever, and so he drinks the beer. And um, I just want to say we need to support our farmers. We need to support our breweries. We need to support all these small businesses that were unjustly closed down. Even our churches, we allowed them to close us down. And I just think that that is unacceptable. They cannot have that much power to close us down like that. And so, and I think that's the point that Ted Cruz is making in the video. I'm sure of it. And so um, he said, "Okay, I'm going to drink a beer." And I said, "Oh, I love beer, and I want to tell you why I love beer." Um, Years ago, and I mentioned this just briefly. After we adopted the boys, I had that big C word, very sick. That's why one of the reasons why we stayed in Europe for so long. Um, it's a long story, but so I was very sick, and during the chemotherapy, I couldn't really eat or drink anything, and because everything smelt so toxic, but not beer, but not beer. Beer smelled so clean. And ever since then, I love beer. um, So during that whole time, of course, my really good friend brought me a case of alcohol-free beer, and it was just kept me going. It's something that I could keep down. It was clean. A lot of times when people have chemo, they like eat iceberg lettuce or lemon or whatever. And for me, um, it was to drink one of these beautiful German alcohol-free beers. So now, I kind of like Stella. Of course, you have to be at rest, and the last 3 years, we have not been at rest at all. We're not allowed to really grieve or just take time out. Um, we have to be clear headed all the time. So we haven't really been able to enjoy it. So maybe all of you out there, if you have a chance to support these small businesses and that with your pizza or whatever, just think about me. Think about me there, because beer is clean. It's like the desert. It is clean. I can tell you that right now. So, yeah, that's why I said that. I wanted to clarify that before, it got misconstrued. Um, and we are over the target. That's why we're getting retaliation. We're over the target, and we're getting closer and closer. We're very close. We have the evidence, right? We have the evidence. We know that Richard was unjustly retaliated against because he was whistleblowing. We know that. We know, uh, there's this. I'm asking about Lalani Hart today about her retaliation, about her complaints, because she has a history of complaints. And it only makes sense to me since she is, you know, we've concentrated a lot on July 2020 and beyond, right? What happened to Richard? But Richard's case started way before that, right? It started way before that. And what was happening that he was um, putting in these reports, these CPS complaints, these Park University complaints, and the IG all over the barracks because of Halliday, the CID complaints. So what was going on there, and um, that that on the 22nd of July 2020, Lalani Hart had to notarize and put in that affidavit, that criminal complaint affidavit that is a confession. She had to put that in a day before he went missing. And that notarized complaint is very long, uh, and it takes time to write all these papers. Uh, I will tell you, at the beginning of this, it took so much time. And now because we're learning the language, we're having help now with the writing because we know how important it is to write these letters. At the beginning, we didn't know, and we were trying to work with the Army. Um, and so now we're still trying to work with the Army, but we're also totally aware that they're up to no good in our son's case, and that we have to really document everything. So we're writing letters for open records requests constantly, daily updates, and yeah, it's oh, gosh, um, it really is something, and it's a team effort. Team Find Richard Halliday is really a team effort, and so we're getting better and better and better at writing these. But I can tell you, it takes time. And so she had to have started that with, I believe, the help of Tavita Nusa, because of the CID case number on there. Because what triggered that CID case number on a affidavit, on a notarized affidavit, that is really, shouldn't that have just went to the FBI? Shouldn't that have, I know her husband is under UCMJ because he's at the VA, but that is a really good question. How did it get that CID number? What triggered it? Um, so, it took a lot of time to do that. So, what made her try to cover herself? And also, what other complaints did she make before that? Because she doesn't give up so easy. She's relentless, also. I mean, we're talking to people that she's hurt, and they were in a relentless battle with her for years. And she would just, it's awful. And we know that they're telling the truth because she's a convicted criminal. She had to admit that she did this kind of damage to people's lives. And it's over and over and over again. She had restraining orders, and those restraining orders were broken. So this is not me just gossiping. This is me telling you what's in those case files, what's in those court files. And uh, so our question is, what other complaints did she write? It wasn't just to deny us due process, to retaliate against our key witness unjustly. Um, it wasn't just, uh, in 2022, right? It wasn't in January 2022 that she decided to retaliate. I think it was in 2019, okay? 2019 and in 2020, especially 2020, like in around March area. That March area, I really believe that she started making some reports because Richard got retaliated against severely. And it really, remember what Captain David Park said in his letter, that they tried to investigate him for this and investigate him for that and investigate. Why? Uh, was Leilani Hart complaining about Richard? Did she put in some allegations, false allegations against him? To have this military retaliation against him. Um, it's just curious. That's where we're thinking, okay, that's some of those things happened. And and it's, you just have to think outside the box. But things happened before Richard went missing, and things had to escalate so badly that they were willing to murder him, because we believe that's what happened, that it was a code red, that it was approved by the leadership, um, that he be murdered, that he be done away with, that he be silenced. And that's what we believe. And that sounds a little crazy, I know, but we are up against every institution, and we have experience just by asking our little bit of a crazy questions like, was this a code red? Is the FBI hiding the remains of our son? Why didn't they contact us? Why didn't they tell us Richard was a whistleblower? Why didn't they say, oh, this is involved in what was going on at Park University that was up to no good? Um, you know, it, these crazy questions, these crazy questions. Hey, is Dallas Hart Richard's platoon leader? Huh? Um, you know, uh, Crazy questions here, and we have suffered through retaliation ourselves for asking those questions, and not just from one person or so. We experienced months of retaliation. We even had to figure out a way to trace where that retaliation was coming from. And it didn't lead to individuals, it led to government controlled institutions. And that is, that's concerning. That's very concerning. So, when you have the AG and the Department of Justice and the JAG office, um, and the command and the CPS and the CYS and Park University and the governor's office and you know on and on and on, um, the MPs, the CID. I mean, absolutely, it makes sense if Richard's an intern in the CID, how they all met and what he saw, why he even saw things, because he was so close, being the guidon bearer, also being an intern in the CID. And was Lalani Hart part of this? Yes, because her affidavit is part of Richard's file. So did she before then make complaints to try to stop him from him making his complaints? Um, I think that that is a valid question to ask. And I think that we should be able to get the answers on that because she was part of leaks. Leaks, leaks, leaks. Tavita part of leaks, 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 leaks. Loss of badge, loss of his career in the military. As soon as the leaks came out, as far as the witness goes, in January of 2022, what happened? Dallas Hart was out. He was out. Okay. Then we have um, the FBI right now, uh, Jeff Downey, Jeffrey Downey, he's leaving. Why is everybody leaving? They build these houses or whatever to stay put, and then they leave. Judge Robert Shook, why is he leaving? Why couldn't he answer about the um, warrants, about the uh, probable cause affidavits, about the autopsy reports? Why couldn't he answer simple questions like that, yay or nay? Um, I've talked to other victims' families. They get told everything. They get told about the phone calls. They get told about all the evidence. There is transparency with their cases. That's not been the case with our case. Not been the case with Richard's case because we do have two cases here now because our civil rights were violated because the fugitive apprehension unit came with their assault team and uh, illegally without a warrant. We don't know if there's a warrant. There's no warrant, and it's months and months we've been asking for this warrant of them searching our home. So, um, we put that on the side burner because we're more interested in Richard's case to find Richard, to get his remains, to bring his remains home, to be able to bury his remains, have closure for our family, and also have accountability for the perpetrators who did this to Richard. And we want the accountability because no, we need to set a precedence because we have soldiers right now blowing themselves up. Um, yeah. Uh, and, the suicide rate is questionable. You have the JAG blocking soldiers from getting answers. So there is a security breach. There is those working outside of the law on Fort Bliss. We have that from Thomas Kane, the chief of security of Fort Bliss. We have nonsense going on in the military police. We heard that from Anthony Swafford. We have nonsense going on in the FBI. We heard that from Nadal Bayim. And, we heard nonsense going on in the command. We heard that from Command Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz, who absolutely, we have confirmation now that Thomas Kane with Clem Coward. Thomas Kane is the one that gave the special passes, the extra special passes to the party girls during COVID. That's what made them extra special. It was during the COVID lockdown. And these were to party. These were to party. And we know by Chagra, we know by others. I'm even curious about Edwin Sishonet, but we know with Chagra case that they were selling loads of illegal drugs into Fort Bliss, that the barracks were a marketplace for illegal drugs. We know that they were flush with weapons. And so this is, you know, you can say whatever you want about what we, our allegations that, it needs to be checked. Uh, Lalani's psychology, her mental state, because she has a long history of mental problems. The judge told her she needed to get mental help. That was part of the whole uh, punishment, I guess, rehabilitation for her after she had lied to law enforcement authorities, that she needed to get her mental state checked out. The judge had a lot of questions about that. And so, um, if she is always trying to retaliate, then I think it is a very logical question to say, are there charges by Lalani that are false charges, that are unjust charges against Richard in early 2020, um, around March? Are they there? February, are they there? That maybe some other time period, maybe as far back as 2019. We would like to know. So that is, and why people are just leaving instead of answering our questions. But things have changed. The tide is changing, and we're starting to get institutional support now and get answers. And we're very grateful to the governor's office now for responding to our open records request for the money. So as soon as we get all of that, we will be sharing it. Um, if there's any questions, I think that is, make sure I have all my notes. This Van Buren house is also top of the list. Oh, yeah. I wanted to mention back months ago the criminal liability of the Army. Um, Remember that for the Uvalde shooting, $140 million was awarded to the families, that because the Air Force was at fault, because they did not vet. They did not vet properly, and they did not. They just let things happen, right? They just let this guy that was mentally unstable buy weapons and things like that. So they were liable for a percentage, I think it was 60%, of the shootings at Uvalde. So I think that is really, really important to remember, that the Army is liable uh, for all of their um, non actions or their illegal actions, like tampering with evidence, tampering with witnesses. And I think that is, 140 million, yeah, $140 million that was awarded. So there is a precedence that the Army can be uh, deemed liable in in obstruction of justice and in murder, in these crimes. So that gives you a reason why they're working so hard for so long to make it seem, control the narrative of Richard's case, and they've really, I mean, they have must have spent so much money. I'm thinking that's why I'm so excited about Amy Snoddy's office getting back to us, because they must have spent a lot of money to try to control this narrative, right? Instead of getting justice for a soldier, right, that was trying to do the right thing, see something, say something. So he did. And what happens to whistleblowers when they see something, say something? They're called a narc, or, you know, or they're done away with. Look at Austin Hawke, totally brutalized. And others have died since that were trying to whistleblow. Look at Asia Graham trying to whistleblow, trying to do the right thing. And, you know, it seems that even in cases of suicide, they tamper with the evidence. They tamper, um, and cover up. And that is really, there's no question of the damage that they're doing. And this is then a national security threat because our military is in a mess. Absolutely a mess. Okay, so just going through my notes about what's going on in the media right now. Miss Kercherga, um, why aren't they covering what's going on at Fort Bliss? It doesn't even have to be Richard's case. There's so much going on that requires the media to, be a hedge for our soldiers, for our service members. It's the media that can do a lot of good by exposing the lack of action, you know, or to protect our soldiers. And one of them, our active duty soldier that has just went through the chain of command and had no luck at all, put in a request with Veronica Escobar to have a congressional inquiry. Where is Miss Kacherga? Where is the press? Where is um, Natasia Paloma? Right? Where is she? She knows this case. There's so many more that know this case, and yet, even the fact to protect this soldier, they know what's going on at Fort Bliss. They should protect this soldier. They don't even have to mention Richard's name in it. Just say an active duty soldier is asking for a congressional inquiry, and we need to hedge around him and give him his due say in court and just protect him because he's taking a huge risk with what's going on with whistleblowers right now, how they're being killed, how they're being murdered, how they're being slaughtered. Really, they're being slaughtered. And we saw that with Vanessa, we saw that with Enrique, we saw that with Austin Hawke, we saw that with Asia Graham, we saw that with Richard. So, you would think that the media would get behind this soldier. That's my point there. And I hope that you get behind him by signing. We have over 100, I believe, over 100 signatures now. So on that petition, please sign it. Please don't stop there. Get other people to sign it also. It's really, really important. Okay, everyone. Um, I think I covered. I'm having to make notes now because it is getting that close. It's getting that close. Remember, institutional support plus evidence equals accountability. And we're finally getting some institutional support. And we're very, very grateful. We just need now Major General Eisenhower to realize what a fraud, what a criminal, what an evil evil, mean person. What a conniving person. What a person that's involved with moral turpitude. You know, all of those moral turpitudes. I even, let's see what they are. I wrote them down. I wanted to write them down. Fraud, theft, forgery, embezzlement, bribery, perjury, kidnapping, child abuse, domestic violence, sexual offenses. These are crimes of deception categorized as involving moral turpitude. Yeah, that is, wow, that is something to think about. And, once Major General Eisenhower looks at this list, I'm thinking about adding it to another contact with him, saying, "Look at this list. We cannot have it. We cannot tolerate it. And this is what has happened with Leilani Hart with these lies, um, the lies and the fraud." Um, against a key witness in Richard's case that is obstructing justice. And so it'll be a great, great day when it's kind of like that king in Lord of the Rings, right? Who was kind of like under a spell. And, it's like Leilani Hart whispering in his ear, like a worm. Wasn't that guy called Worm? Worm. And he was like in a daze, and he was in a hypnotic zone, and then all of a sudden, um, he was awakened from that hypnotic witchery potion from the worm, and he realized, oh my goodness, what has happened to me? And it takes time for him to shake it off and to understand what has happened to him. And then finally, war is upon you, whether you want it or not. He finally realizes what is going on here. The destruction going on around him. And so he then does the right thing. He does move to make the right thing. And that's what we want Major General Eisenhower to do. And so if you can write him a letter, that would be really, really helpful. Okay, everyone. And also Veronica Escobar, she needs lots of letters, and Senator Cruz. Senator Cruz, who's fighting out there, um, you know, they have just cut off the legs or the power off of so many of our elected officials. And, I just call it out like I see it. But times shift, times change, and seemingly, we are getting now that institutional support. But we can't we can't rest yet. We can't drink the beer. We can't drink any beer yet. We're still in this battle. Um, and so we have to be vigilant, and we have to write Ted Cruz, Senator Ted Cruz, and Representative Veronica Escobar, um, to give us maintain giving us that institutional support, because we do have the evidence, and that will equal accountability. And with that accountability, we'll get Richard. This is my hope. That's the plan. So thank you, everyone. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Bye bye.